Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. This video will be a reading and study of Exodus chapter 25. That's Exodus chapter 25. And before I get started, per usual, I'll go ahead and read the Lord's Prayer. And it reads, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. So Exodus 25, if you remember, Exodus, the book is about the children of Israel. They were in Egypt for a very long time after the book of Genesis ends. After Joseph gets taken back in Genesis, it's about 400 and some years later. Moses is chosen to go speak with the children of Israel to remove them from Egypt. And of course, the 10 plagues were brought upon Pharaoh, including the death of their firstborn. And the Passover was given to the children of Israel. They escape. They go through the Red Sea. They part the Red Sea where Pharaoh and his army die. And then since then, we've been in the wilderness of Sinai. There's been manna. There's been quail. There's been drinking water. There's been a battle with Amalek. And now they're at the Mount Sinai, where God has been speaking to them for the past few chapters, since about chapter 19, I believe is when. So chapter 19 and the book chapters 20, 21, 22, I think were all entirely just God speaking. Chapter 24, if you remember, Moses came kind of down from the mountain and he wrote the book of the covenant. He sacrificed to the Lord, and then after a while, it ends with Moses going up the mountain again, where he stays there for 40 days. At this point, remember, the children of Israel have been able to basically been hearing everything that's going on when God spoke to them, and they should have been listening, and they should know what is going on. Moses has been telling them the law. God has been speaking to them the law. They all can hear, even though it's going through Moses. God has shown everybody that He is speaking to them all, or they can all hear Him, even though Moses is His chosen prophet. But let me go ahead and get into. Let's see. We'll get into this video, this outline here of Exodus 25. This one is called Instructions for the Lord's Tabernacle, and we'll see why that is. What we're looking for, it's going to be a pretty decent chapter of 40 verses. Verses 1 through 7, we're going to see offerings for a tabernacle. Verses 8 through 9, we're going to see the instructions for a tabernacle. Verses 10 through 16, we're going to come across the Ark of the Testimony. Verses 17 through 22, we're going to come across the mercy seat. Verses 23 through 30, we come across the table. And 31 through 40, we're going to see the golden candlestick. So that's what we're looking for in this particular chapter. Basically, what God is doing is He's going to be giving instructions to these children of Israel on what kind of work they should be doing. So now they've accepted the law. They said they'll do everything that God commands of them. And then there'll be peculiar treasures in His kingdom because everything belongs to Him, as He says. But we'll see what goes on here. Like He's going to now be giving, after He's given them the law, He's going to give them work to do because He is a king, and He's going to tell them what work they should be doing. So what I'll go ahead and do, like as normal, is I'll read through Exodus 25. I'll read through the whole chapter, and then I'll reread it afterwards and kind of go line by line to explain what exactly is going on, and see what how the Holy Spirit explains what's going on here. So I'll go ahead and get started, and I'll do that right now. Oh, let me make sure I got this. Yep. And Exodus 25 reads, And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring me an offering. Of every man that giveth it willingly with his heart, ye shall take my offering. And this is the offering which ye shall take of them: gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair, and ram's skin dyed hair, and badger's skin and shittim wood, oil for the light, spices for anointing oil and for sweet incense, onyx stones, and stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I showed thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall ye make it. And they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. Within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shalt make upon it a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof. And 2 rings shall be in the one side of it, and 2 rings in the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. And thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give thee. And thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, in the 2 ends of the mercy seat. And 1 cherub on the one end, and the other cherub on the other end. Even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and all their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubims be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. Thou shalt also make a table of shittim wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit the breadth thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereto a crown of gold round about it. And thou shalt make unto it a border of an handbreadth round about, and thou shalt make a golden crown to the border thereof round about. And thou shalt make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on the 4 feet thereof. Over against the borders shall the rings be for places of the staves to bear the table. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them. And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and spoons thereof, and covers thereof, and bowls thereof, to cover withal. Of pure gold shalt thou make them. And thou shalt set upon the table shewbread before me alway. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it. 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a nope and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a nope and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knops and their flowers. And there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of the same. It shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof. and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. And the tongs thereof and the snuff dishes thereof shall be of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all these vessels. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount. So that was Exodus 25 in its entirety. So yeah, hold on. So what did we just read through? We came through, God is giving them instructions. He's telling them how to make a tabernacle. So remember, he's talking to Moses, and he's talking to Moses up on the mountain now. This should be after he gave them the law, or after he spoke the law to them. Now he's brought Moses completely up there, and he's telling them what kind of work they're going to be doing. So they need to be doing some work, and it has to do with all these things. They have to make the Ark of the Testimony. They have to make a mercy seat. They have to make a table. They have to make a golden lamp, a golden candlestick. These are some of the furnishings of the tabernacle, and they will ultimately make the tabernacle and make a whole. God is going to make them make a tent out of some other things. But hold on, let me pick this up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show it like this right now. Okay. I'm looking for pictures at the moment. I should have done this prior to this video, but I want to show some pictures of what these furnishings might have looked like. Let's see. These aren't really the greatest pictures. This one looks kind of interesting. Again, I don't want to spend too much time doing this, obviously, but I'll take a little bit of time to do it. Okay, that should be good enough. Now, what I'll go ahead and do is I'll go ahead and just reread the chapter line by line, and we'll see what the Holy Spirit has to say about it this time. So let me go ahead and get that set up. And once again, let's just, these are the works, and these are some of the furnishings, the first few furnishings that God is making for this tabernacle. And of course, the Lord spake unto Moses. He's on top of the mount here, Mount Sinai here. And of course, he tells Moses, and remember, everybody should still, if they're close enough to the mountain, they should be listening to God, and they should still be able to hear him. God is on top of this mountain, and it's on fire. It's a huge deal. It's on fire, and there's about 1 million people probably running around this mountain. They should all be still listening, paying attention. And we'll see in a few chapters, about 7 chapters, I think, 32. We're going to come across these people get impatient, and they try to worship God on their own, while Moses is still up on this mountain. And so right now he's telling them, tell the children of Israel, even though they can hear him, he's still telling Moses. Now they've been made aware that everybody can hear. This is a big miracle, but he is speaking directly to Moses. And even though everybody should still be able to hear, Moses is responsible for relaying the information that they've all heard for like and I've said this before, it's like it's redundancy. It's a type of redundancy, and redundancy is great for logic. And law is all about logic, and this is a redundancy so that everybody should already know the law, even though Moses is responsible for giving out the law to the people and being the judge among them at the moment. They should all still be made aware of it, and that's what's going on here. First off, he tells them, tell the children that they bring me an offering. Of every man that giveth willingly with his heart, ye shall take my offering. So he's telling them, give me, as your God, an offering, but do it willingly. Don't, if you don't want to give it, don't give it. You got to do it willingly, is what he's telling them. And this is the offering which you shall take of them, gold and silver and brass. So he's telling them, go ahead and give me your gold and your silver and your brass. And then also and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hairs. So he's telling them, give me, gold. So the metals here, these are precious metals. And he's saying, give me precious metals, and then also give me linens and clothing, material for making, obviously, like linen. This is clothing, fabrics. So precious metals, fabrics, and even ram skins dyed red, and badger skins and shittim wood. So fabrics and fur coats and even wood. So he's taking he's taking what are, these are what are these known as, kind of commodities, you could kind of call them, in an economic sense. They're materials, just raw materials, gold, silver, brass, and then your raw materials of your linen and your fabrics, and then also materials that have been altered a little bit, like dyed, but also the wood. The wood is also like lumber, just like taking lumber, and then also oil for the light, spices for anointing oil, and for sweet incense. So he's even asking for oils. So, for lanterns, you got spices for the anointing oil and for the sweet. So they're going to burn incense. They're going to use anointing oil. They're going to use candle oil. Let's see. And then also they want some precious stones, onyx stones, and stones to be set in the ephod, in the breastplate. And I don't think he mentions anything besides that in this chapter about the ephod and the breastplate. He's only going to be talking about a few of the furnishings. And over the next few chapters, 25 through about 31, I want to say, God is going to be giving them instructions on what kind of work they should be doing. So now, remember, this whole book has been about him saving these people. And now that he's saved them and they're at his mountain and they're accepting him as their king, he is now giving them works to be done. And then, like I said, this is the point of what a king does. The kings have always done this. They tell the people what kind of work they should be doing. And so, just the same, here he is telling the people what kind of work to be done. And like I said, for the next few chapters, that's what's going to be going on. He's going to have them making things. It'll be the start of what we know as an economy, and as well as the temple. What we know as the temple. This is the tabernacle, but it's the beginning. They're still in the desert. They have not yet inherited the land of Canaan. It has not been fulfilled how they have inherited the land. The promise that was given to Abraham has not yet been fulfilled, but they are getting ready to move into it and to go take it over. Remember the last chapter, God did tell them that they would have victory when they go in and conquer the land. Conquering the land was assured. But let's see. So he doesn't make mention of the breastplate or the ephod, but we'll see that in coming chapters. And then it says, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. So this is what I mean, the tabernacle, the temple, the sanctuary that God will dwell upon, the sanctuary. Right now, he's going to have them make it it's going to be more like a tent than a building. It will be like a tent that they can move, and he will dwell among them, but he's going to give specific ways and so forth, but he will dwell among them. Right now, he's shown himself to be like a storm on this mountain, and we'll see how he appears later on as well. But according to all that I showed thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so ye shall make it. That's what he says. So he's going to say, first off, you need to make me a sanctuary. That's his first big works. And so this is, everybody has their works projects, for example, the presidents of the United States, right now, Mr. Trump, Donald Trump, President Trump is trying to make a wall. Just like in the past, we've had, the Hoover Dam, they've made, our presidents have made things like, I think even the Panama Canal was done by the United States. And other countries have their own things too. We always know the Great Wall of China. These are great works made by what we would know as the governments. And so just the same, here is God starting with his first great works with the people. And it's to make him a sanctuary that he can dwell among them. And he's telling them, make it after this pattern. This is the pattern. Everything make after the pattern that I give you. And they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2.5 cubits shall be the. So this is the ark. So getting into it, let me see. Basically, chapters 1 through 7 verses 1 through 7 were the offerings. So remember, the offerings were, the onyx stones and the oil and the rams and so forth. And then 8 through 9 were the instructions for the tabernacle. He said, here's the instructions. You're gonna make me this sanctuary, and it's gonna be exactly how I tell you to do it. And then so for verses 10 through 16, we're gonna see the ark of the testimony. So let's take a look at this testimony, ark of the testimony. Ye shall make an ark of shittim wood, 2.5 cubits. So this is the ark that they're talking about, the ark of testimony. And it's supposed to be made of shittim wood. And I don't really know what shittim wood is. I guess we could always Google it and take a look at some images. You can see it's I would just say what we know to look like any other kind of wood. It's just lumber, but it's from a shittim tree apparently. Maybe acacia wood is kind of, I see that, and I didn't know it says acacia later on, but I don't know what the word shittim means, but it's really just wood of a particular kind of a tree, so that's really what the pictures I'm looking at. You can see it's got a nice color to it. To me, I'm not very versed in lumber, so to me it looks almost like many other kinds of wood. But anyway, so he's telling them, and 2.5 cubits. So if you remember from Genesis, I kind of made mention that a cubit is roughly 1.5 feet. So it's about 18 inches. So 1 cubit is about 18 inches. So 2 cubits is actually like 3.5 feet. So that's like 3 feet, 9 inches just about. So, 3 feet, a little over 3 feet is what it shall be, the length. And 1.5 cubits, the breadth, so about 27 inches kind of wide. So it's kind of, it's a little, it's not quite what we know in our terms, but it's not very big. It's about 3 feet long, about 2 feet wide, and about almost 2 feet high. So it's not very big. It's actually pretty small. This is the ark of what is this? The ark of the ark of the testimony. And thou shalt, so you make the wood, so it's made out of wood, but then they're gonna overlay it with pure gold, inside and out, within and without. So inside and out. So now they've made this. They make this box, which is an ark, and they're gonna make it with wood, but the wood is gonna be covered with pure gold. So they're gonna put gold all over this, inside and out, and shall make upon it a crown of gold. So even around the outside it's gonna have a nice border of this gold, is what they're saying. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof, and 2 rings shall be in the one side of it. So now you've got this box. If you can think about it, it's a box with the and it's all nice gold. It's all made out of nice gold, but on the top of it has like a crown of gold. And then now you've also got these rings on all 4 corners of this box, and they're gold rings. And what he's gonna say is, you're gonna make staves. Thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. So now you're making staves. And if you know what a staff is, it's just a staff. It's like a straight piece of wood. Like a wooden pole, basically, is what it is. And not only that, these wooden poles are going to be covered with gold as well. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides, that the arks may be borne with them. So what they're saying is, you're going to have this box, and everything's going to be overlaid with gold, and you're going to have these 2 staves on either side of the box, and they're going to go through the rings, so that you could have 2 people pick up this box. One, and you could have them pick it up in the back, and they hold this box by these staves, and that's what they're talking about. And the staves shall be in the rings of the ark; they shall not be taken from it. So he's saying, and these staves are going to be set in there. And you're gonna make them to where they can't come out. They're basically, you're gonna attach them to this ark right here. And thou shalt put into the ark of the testimony, which I shall give thee. So that's what he's saying. This is the ark of the testimony. And so I've got pictures here. Here is what we're kind of looking at right here. This one kind of the altar. This seems to be what they're probably talking about. What is it right here? The Ark of the Covenant is what they're calling it here. I think that's what it should be, right? This is. Let me see. Yeah, because that's the one that looks like the Ark of the Covenant. But let me see. So this is what it looks like. It hasn't quite talking about the cherubim yet. It will get to it later. But this is the Ark. So you can see how it's got these staves and the whole box is gold. That's basically what it'd be looking like. And you got these staves so that people can pick it up and do that. So that's what this is. That's what he means. The 2 staves, the 4 rings, and the box. And it's all made out of gold. And we're going to talk about the crown is, I'm not really sure what he's talking about this crown. I guess he's talking about the crown up on top. But he is going to talk about the cherubim later here in a minute. So after 10 through 16, that's the Ark of the Testimony. So 17 through 22, we come across the mercy seat. So you got the Ark. And I know that one's called the Ark of the Covenant. So I don't know if the Ark of the Covenant is different than the Ark of the Testimony. This one doesn't actually tell me. It has the golden lampstand, the table, the altar of incense, the bronze basin, the altar of burnt offering. This should be it though. Yeah, it's pretty much it. Exodus 25, 10 through 22. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. 10 through 22. And he's going to talk more about this. Yeah, that is the Ark. So 17, and so inside this Ark too, he's going to give them some things, and he's going to tell them they need to put some things in there for future generations. And I think one of them, he's actually going to put a jar of manna in there along with some other things, but I don't even think he gets into it in this chapter just yet. But he's having them make the box, and he's also saying, thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length, and 1.5 cubits the breadth thereof. So it's basically I think the mercy seat is what's going to be put on top, right? Yeah, on top. So this Ark of the Covenant, the box is what we were talking about. Those first few, 10 through 16, with a nice crown over it. It looks like, which is this molding type looking situation. But now we're talking about the mercy seat, and the mercy seat I think is on top of it, which is what this is. And these are cherubim, which are basically like, I guess you could kind of say they're like winged angels of some sort. What a cherubim is, and you could see it right here too. And they got their wings together, and it says you make it of pure gold, and thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, and the 2 ends of. So this is getting interesting too, because at this point, you should know, this is several thousand years ago, like 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago almost. It's a long time ago. And back then, they were already in the gold age. They were already knowing how to make metals they knew how to, look at them. That's what he's saying, beaten work. They were able to make this gold out overlays. So they made the box, and they were able to make this whole gold, overlay around it. Look at that. They were able to cover it with gold. So that means they had to know how to smelt the gold. They had to know how to find the gold first off. So they had to, they were probably panning for gold with, just like we do it nowadays, panning for gold or digging for gold and separating it out. They knew how to do that, which in and of itself is a complicated task, I would say, even for today. People, you have to be trained and know what you're doing to go find gold. There's a lot of work involved as well. You have to dig it up. You have to, pan it out. You got to separate it from all the other, there's a lot of water involved. You got, and then after that, beaten work right here. He's talking about they had to smelt it. So they had to melt it down, and then they had to pour it, and they had to be able to pour it into molds of some sort, and to refine it, and then they had to be able to refine it afterwards. And even today, if we're going to refine gold or other kinds of metals, brass, copper, all that type of deal, when after you melt it, after you put it in a furnace and you pour it out into some sort of a mold, it's very hot, and then afterwards they still have to how do I say this? The beaten work aspect, the beaten work, that means they have to refine it. They have to, and today we use a lot of machinery. We use a lot of, what are they called? We use a lot of machine work for I'm trying to remember the word of, how to make everything smooth and to grind it down. They use a lot of grinders, cutting wheels type situations. But they use, they basically circular type of grinding wheels that go really fast, and they're able to buff it out or make it smooth. But so these people are doing it by hand without the modern machineries that we have. So that's something to keep in mind, that they were doing this long time ago. They knew how to work with gold. So if they knew how to work with gold, they should have already probably known how to work with copper and iron as well. They would have known how to be blacksmiths, and the blacksmiths would have known how to work with several materials. And so they were already, a long time ago, they were doing this. So these people were very complex. They were very civilized, is what I would say. They knew how to make things. They knew how to make things, and they were very established in that sense. And so it's very interesting that God is taking these people and having them make things for him, and they were already very complicated things, and they were still being able to do it. So it's very interesting. And one cherub on the one end and the other cherub on the other end, even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims on the two ends thereof. So keep in mind, that's this picture right here. These cherubim are these things on top. You can see them right here, and it's the seat. This is what's known as the mercy seat. So I mean, I don't really know if they were sitting on it later on, or if this is supposed to be a representation of God sitting on this Ark of Covenant, basically kind of like this is like his throne at the moment. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to get into it. That's some good things to, as we go through the Bible, to see what happens to this Ark of the Covenant, to see how God uses it, because it's already starting to look like some sort of like I said, a throne where they can pick him up, and there's he's sitting on his throne, and inside his throne are things that he's going to put of his testimony, saying that they know, even though this God is not a man, like they know him like a God, like a king, he's not like Pharaoh. He's, Pharaoh would have just literally sat on this, but there is no man to sit on this. It's just God, and God is, as we know it, he presents himself in different ways, and it's very complicated because people can't comprehend him. But that's what he's saying. He's going to make the two cherubims on the other side, and they're going to be looking at each other, basically. And the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings. And their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubim be. So remember, 17 through 22 is where you get this mercy seat. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. So you see what he's saying? That's exactly what he's saying. The ark itself is the box, if you see the box. But then the mercy seat goes on top of it. And he's saying, you're going to, inside the ark, thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. So he's going to tell him, you're going to put some things in this box. And you're going to put the mercy seat as the covering for this box. And he's telling them right out, and there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubims, which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in commandments unto the children of Israel. So just like I'm saying, this is basically like a throne of some sort. And God is saying that God is going to speak to you from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubims. So he's going to speak to them from right in here, if you could see it. So he's not sitting on the wings. This is like a covering for where you're going to hear his voice. From right in there, he says he's going to speak to the people. So remember, right now he's speaking to Moses, and he's on top of Mount Sinai, and it's very terrifying. The people are scared. It looks like a giant storm. There's fire everywhere. The entire mountain is on fire. There's earthquakes. There's lightning. There's thunder. So it's very terrifying for the people. But he's telling them he's going to drop down to here. So once they make this, he won't be speaking to them from this mountain. He's going to be speaking to them from in here or from within this space, which once again is another great miracle. We're going to see how this art gets used throughout later books, and that these people go in, the priests go in, and they would, once a year or something, the high priest would go in and speak to God from, and this spot is where he would, it's going to be like great miracles. Like, he's going to speak to them from right in here in this little spot. It's just a tiny little area. Remember, it's like a couple of feet wide of, 2-3 feet by 2-3, it's not a very big spot. And so that's where he's going to commune with them. He's going to speak with them. And from between, and he says, of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel, that's what I'm going to do. So he's going to say, I'm not going to speak to you from the mountain in the future. I'm going to speak to you from this ark. And this ark's going to be portable, and it's going to be made of gold, and and so forth. So God is really telling the people, and it's interesting because, the one story that I will relay is kind of later on, way later on, right before Jesus. I want to say it's Zechariah goes in there and he hears about his son John the Baptist, and what he's gonna, what he's supposed to name him, and then he actually goes mute for a whole year, or not a whole year, until the child is born, and then he's able to speak again. But when he comes out, he's the high priest. He comes out of the temple, and at this point, the temple is no longer this right here. This is about 1,000 years after this. This will they're in a temple, and that temple is in Jerusalem, and it's a made out of stone and everything or whatever, but it's an actual building at that point. And I don't even know if the ark is actually in there at that point. But ultimately, he goes in there and he communes with God, and this is what he would have been going into, basically, to talk to this Ark of the Covenant here. Even though I think by that point the Ark of the Covenant is actually missing. But either way, that's the point, is that their high priest would go into this little room. He would talk with the sheriff, he would commune with God, and then he'd come out and talk with the people and tell the people what God had commanded. And God is outlaying that right now, that's what's going to happen in the future. And he says, thou shalt also make a table of shittim wood, 2 cubits shall the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. So this is the table. So now he's gone through the mercy seat. Verses 23 through 30 are going to be about this table. And once again, we even see it right here, the table of shewbread is what this one calls it. The bread of the presence lay on it all at all times. So you can see this is a table, and they're going to put some things on it, and let's see what it also says. Yeah, so right here, you're going to make this table, and you're going to make it, overlay it with pure gold, and make thereto a crown of gold round about it. So he's talking about, basically like a crown molding, what we know as a crown molding. You see them, and I'm looking up, I don't have any crown molding in this room, but if you go into a nice room, you come across crown molding all around the room. That's basically what's going on this table as well. You're putting a crown around it, and it's of pure gold. And thou shalt make unto it a border of an handbreadth round about, and thou shalt make a golden crown to the border thereof round about it. So he's just saying you're going to make a hole up on top, and around the sides is going to be a nice gold crown on this tabletop. And thou shalt make it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on the feet thereof. So again, same concept. You're going to put these 4 rings, and you're going to make staves. And you're going to put, and over against the border shall the rings be for the places of the staves to bear the table. So somebody can pick it up with these staves, and everything's made out of gold. Remember that. It's very, very, very interesting. It's all gold. And if you know the value of gold today, you'll see that, gold price per ounce, by the ounce right now, it's running about $1,500 per ounce. So it's an ounce of gold is very expensive. And so even in those days, an ounce of gold would have been hard to come by, just because how hard gold in general is to come by. So this would have been a very valuable furniture, mind you. This would all been very valuable furniture, and even today it would still be very, very valuable. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood and over. Let's see. Yeah. So once again, the staves also made with wood, overlaid with gold, and the staves go in through the rings. And then he continues on, telling you, thou shalt make the dishes. So you're making dishes, you're making spoons, bowls, to put on this table. And thou shalt set upon the table shewbread before me always. So he's saying you're going to pick this table and you're going to put bread on this table all day. There's always going to be bread, shewbread. It's going to be bread. It's just bread. This bread is going to always be there. That means somebody always has to have bread thereof. And then going on past this, verses 31 through 40, the end of it, we're going to come across the golden candlestick. And I guess before I get into it, I kind of want to make mention of this. And I don't know if I made mention of it in the last chapter, but when he came down and they had to make sacrifices. But God is, right away, as soon as these people accept him as their king, they are indebted to him. They are now in debt. They're making offerings. And now even this is a clear aspect of how in debt they are to him. They have to make bread and put that bread there, and it always has to be there. So every day basically you got to make bread to put in, to make sure you got bread on this table. And of course there's nobody really there other than God, and God doesn't need to eat it or anything. It's just there. He's indebted to the people are indebted to him. So, and we're going to also see that, I'm not sure if that was in the last chapter or if it's going to be coming up in chapters thereof. I can't even remember, but basically they're going to also have to make a sacrifice every day. Every day they got to make a sacrifice. And it's just the way it is. They're indebted every day. They already at this point, they got to start gathering and making sure that every day they can pay this sacrifice. It's like a tax that they got to pay almost, if you think about it. And this is the same case of this bread. Every day you're just making bread, and you can't just, you don't want to let this bread go bad, I would imagine. You don't want to let it, you don't want to let it stay a week and it starts, just going bad. You don't want to do that. So that means you really have to constantly be making this bread and setting it there is what's really going to end up happening. And we'll see that, like I said, God is really showing himself to be, he's the living God. He is living, even though we don't understand him or see him or necessarily grasp his form. He is there, and he is alive, and he wants this bread there. Just like if we, his servants, his people must feed him. He is the king. But moving on to the golden candlestick here. So he's going to say, and thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. So it's once again, this is a complicated piece of gold. We're going to see the golden lampstand right here. That's what it's talking about. A symbol. We know it now as, I think people call it a menorah. People call it menorah now. There's 6, 7. Basically, here's what it's talking about. 1, 2, 3 on either side. And it's the golden lampstand, a symbol of the tree of life. It held 7 oil lamps, is what this is telling me on this picture. But that's what it's gonna look at like. And like I said, what we call it now, I think we call it like a menorah, is what they call it. And so that's what it's saying. His shaft, and it's gonna be all pure gold. And 6 branches shall come out of the side, 3 on the one side and 3 branches on the other side. 3 bowls made like unto almonds. So the bowls, this is where you put the, I guess this is where you put the actual candles on. 3 bowls with a knop and a flower, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch with a knop and the flower. So that's what these are supposed to be like. That's what he's saying. It's 3 bowls made like unto almonds with the knop and a flower in one branch. So that's what this is right there at the ends. Bam, bam, bam. They're like almond size, just enough to put the candles in, and with a little knot and a flower on those branches. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds with their knops, and there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches, and a knop on. So he's really getting at these little things that you see right there, right there. So I'm not really sure of the significance of them, honestly, why God would make it look exactly like that, but that's what he's doing. And like I said, we will find out it is supposed to be a symbol of the tree of life, but how so, I'm not entirely sure. Hopefully I'll see it throughout the rest of the Bible. I can't say that I've noticed what it's all about, but it is something special, this candlestick. Just like all of this furniture is very special. It's all very symbolic. He's sitting there on coming out of his throne. He's got his food from his table there that they have to make every day. And here's his light, obviously. This would be a candle light, so you're going to have candles. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls. Let's see what they're not. And there shall be a knop under 2. This is what I was getting at. So actually, look at. Yeah, so this is the same. A knop under 2 branches, according their knops on their branches shall be of the same, and it shall be of 1 beaten work. So he's really making it a real nice candlestick. These are the knops and the flowers that it's talking about, the branches. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. And the tongs thereof and the snuff dishes thereof shall be of pure gold. So the tongs and the snuff dishes, I don't think it really shows them here. But basically, the tongs of the snuff dishes are basically the to put out the candles, and to grab the candles and to put them out and so forth. And everything's gonna be pure gold. And there's gonna be 7 lamps thereof. So he goes, and the tongs. And of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all these vessels. A talent of pure gold. Oh, wow. So the talent of pure gold. How much is a talent? So how much is a talent? So let's see, about 33 kilograms. So 75 pounds is what they think a talent is about. But, either way, wow, at this price, a talent will be worth about $1.4 million. So even these people, talent is trying to say it's about 75 pounds. So remember when I said earlier, they would have all been, an ounce of gold is about $1,500 right now. A kilogram of gold was worth, let's see, this is about a kilogram of gold is worth about, I already forgot how much it was worth. I don't know if I have it here. Gold value. So let's see, a kilogram is about $48,000, almost $50,000 for a kilogram. And this is saying about 33 kilograms is what talent's about. So that's why I'm saying a kilogram is, a talent was worth about $1.4 million in today's age. So this was a talent, 75 pounds. Should you make all these vessels? So this was going to be a lot of gold. This was a very, like I said, is a very expensive in gold. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount. So God is, it's a very expensive, and we've come across, like I said, the Ark of the Testimony, the mercy seat, the table for the showbread, and the golden candlestick. That's all we've come across, and all this is going to be made in gold. And it's going to be expensive. 1 talent of gold, about 75 pounds. Value in today's world, about $1.5 million. Just about. And that's what God is saying. This is kind of like what it looks like. We got the Ark of the Covenant, which is the Ark of the Testimony with the mercy seat. Got the golden lampstand, the table of showbread over here. And like I said, and even this picture, we'll see about the altar of burnt offering and the bronze basin and the altar of incense. We'll see those later. But for right now, that's what this chapter had. The table, the lampstand, and the ark, and the mercy seat. All of it made of pure gold. A lot of value there. And it's going to be placed, all of this is going to be placed inside his sanctuary, which he'll explain the sanctuary later. But it's going to be all movable. It's going to be mobile, so these people can, move the sanctuary around wherever they are and wherever God tells them to go. And it's no longer going to be as terrifying as this mountain where they can all see him, and they're all terrified and they were all afraid of dying. So God is going to, make it a little bit more, make himself more presentable, put himself in the sanctuary. He's going to put himself on his throne. And inside of that little throne kind of thing is this, the ark, and he's going to tell them to put some things which are going to be proof of his existence and proof of this all happening for future generations. But that is Exodus 25. I'll go ahead and end this video right about now. It's a pretty good chapter, and it's getting into the works that God is going to have these people build for him. So the children of Israel will be doing work. And this is complicated work. This isn't easy. They need a really good blacksmith to be doing this. They need a lot of miners to be doing this. You need to go find people to actually go mine this gold, to go find this gold for them. There's a lot of gold. And they need somebody to be able to, a blacksmith to make it, and you also need a carpenter type person to make the wood stuff. So this isn't simple. It is not, it's not an easy task for these people, even though there's a lot of people. Remember, this was the ancient days, and in today's world, even 75 pounds of gold, I don't know how long it would take an experienced crew of gold miners, and how big that crew would have to be, and how long they would have to work. But to get 75 pounds of gold, I don't think is something you could do in just a day or two. Personally, I've seen people come up with maybe like an ounce of gold in a day with a few experienced gold panners or gold miners, and they might come up with an ounce a day, a handful of guys. So what 1 million people could come up with and how long it would take them, I really don't know. They would have probably come out of Egypt with a lot of gold as it is, so they might not have had to do any mining. But still, it is a lot of gold, and it is a lot of value. Even in today's world, it'd still be worth, $1.5 million just for these pieces of furniture. Keep in mind. But yeah, like I said, I'll go ahead and end this video here. I'll go ahead and say, if you're watching this, God bless you. I pray that we all bless Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ blesses all of us. And so if you like this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for future chapter by chapter Bible studies. So have a good one. God bless you. Amen.